Hello, everybody. My name is Pete Pearson. We're going to introduce this next panel. And it's a real honor and a treat to be here, so thank you very much. Go ahead. So, well, everybody, I think, has the bio of the panel in the program, but I just want to make sure that you know who folks are. So, to my left is Astrid, who is the CEO and founder of Food Cycle Indonesia. Marco Capa, Managing Director of TAFL in Germany. And Tera, did I get it right? Yes, okay. Director General of BAMEX in Mexico. And then again, my name is Pete Pearson. We'll do a quick little round of intros for the organizations. I'll start and then we'll get into some questions. So again, it's an honor to be here. I work for World Wildlife Fund, which many might not realize is heavily involved in the issues of food systems. I've been with World Wildlife Fund for about 8 years, and I report through our global food and agriculture practice. The basics of this, the linkage, is that when we think about the production of food, it has a very dramatic impact on nature, on the planet. We estimate that about 70% of biodiversity decline is a result of agriculture. It's the result of food, fuel, and fiber production globally. And so you can imagine with those kinds of numbers, this is very much part of the DNA and the work that World Wildlife Fund does. We have 80 offices around the world, and right now about 20 of those offices are partnering with us in this work on food loss and waste. I would love to eventually have all 80, but these partnerships that we have on food loss and waste globally are really key, because I think World Wildlife Fund, in terms of collaboration, in terms of the topic for this panel, collaboration for food system change, it's going to require that we have linkage to unlikely partnerships, right? And a group like World Wildlife Fund, devoted to nature, we have partnerships that span not only the private sector but government. And so these linkages are going to be very critical, and it's going to force us all to think creatively about how we go about creating new partnerships in this space. Many of our partners are in the room. We're very proud to be a partner with Global Food Banking Network, and we just feel like there is a tremendous amount of synergy for us to be talking about these issues. So with that, I'll turn it to Astrid, and please give us an introduction of your organization.
Yes, it's working, right? Okay. So my name is Astrid Paramita. I'm from Indonesia. I have a German name, but I'm not German. Just a quick intro about myself. I'm the co-founder of Food Cycle Indonesia. But on a full-time basis, I actually have 2 businesses to look after and 2 kids. And on other full-time basis, the CEO of Food Cycle Indonesia. So we're a relatively new food bank. We started in 2017. Met GFN in 2019, and we've only started to work on the food bank model in 2020. So we're still a baby. Food Cycle Indonesia is a baby compared to all the other food banks in the room. But I think today I'm going to be talking about the collaborations and how it matters in Indonesia, because food bank is a totally new topic in Indonesia. And we work with other partners like BRAP in the UK. And for us, the goal is to create the awareness. That's where we are right now. Because everyone's confused of what food bank is. Like every, Tom, Dick, Harry can claim to be a food bank, but there's a certain standard that has to be met to be a food bank. And that's really where the collaboration works for us.
Yeah, in Jakarta, right?
Jakarta, yeah.
And then how many people in Jakarta?
Like
population-wise?
Yeah. 20 million, I think, during the day. So yeah, heaps.
So a lot of need,
yeah. But Indonesia is very big, and a lot of the food lost and wasted are actually not in the main town. It's where in the culture, in the logistics process of the agriculture. So lots of homework. Yeah.
Great. Okay, Marco, go to you next.
Yeah. My name is Marco Kopper. I'm managing director of Tafel Deutschland together with my colleague Sirka Yendes, who is also here today. We are a team. Tafel Deutschland is the National Association of Food Banks and Food Pantries in Germany, and I'm managing director of Tafel Academy, a subsidiary of our national association with the mandate to educate our 60,000 volunteers all over Germany on all aspects of food banking, really, from hygiene and food safety to volunteer acquisition and even professional skills like office management, human resources, or taxes on non-profits. We have 964 member organizations, and they collect excess food primarily from supermarkets, from bakeries and other retailers, mostly to their own food pantries, but also to other charities like soup kitchens, refugee shelters, underserved schools. And with that, we reach up to 2 million beneficiaries each year and saving an estimated 265,000 tons of food per year throughout our entire network. And I'd say our main difference in Germany is that the Tafel supports people with excess food, but we cannot completely take care of all of their needs. For example, by purchasing food to supplement their donation. We try to bridge the gap between food waste on one hand and people's basic needs on the other, and we view our work as a constant reminder to the government and the responsible agencies that it's actually their job to ensure that people receive a basic minimum level of assistance throughout Germany's comparatively strong social welfare system. And like Dr. Bram Govert said yesterday, just because they're working to create a drought-resistant wheat, this cannot be a justification for national governments to act as though the root problems of climate change has been addressed. And the same is true for our food banking, and all of our food banking efforts cannot be used to justify a rollback or a reduction of the food security, of the social security that ensures a most basic level of existence at the end. And we can mitigate the worst effects of poverty, but it's the job of the governments to ensure that the distribution of resources are equitable. At a bare minimum, they must incentivize, or at least not inhibit, food donations, and it's our job as a national association to constantly remind them of this, so we have a strong role in political lobby work as well.
Yeah, amazing, amazing work. Go to you next, Tara.
Muchas gracias de nuevo y les comparto, bueno, la red anfitriona, la red de...
Let me share, well, the host network, the Mexican food banking network, has been in existence for 30 years. We have over 53 banks. We attend to 1.7 million people who are vulnerable in our country. We have 1,300 employees, all over 5,000 volunteers in the network. And the collaboration is part of DNA because we work directly with the communities. This is a challenging model. We even create community committees so that we can establish these partnerships and expand the work of the bank in a way that's useful, transparent, and orderly. Of course, naturally, since we resort to the communities often, that allows us to open the way so that other associations can implement community interventions that allow us to take not only food, which is absolutely valuable, the raison d'etre of food banks, but also other strengthening programs to strengthen the person, the family, the community, and that allows us to keep growing in different directions. Today, we cooperate with over 430 international and national partners, 4,000 partners locally. Our food bankers do an extraordinary work looking for long-term partnerships and seeking to diversify those cooperations. We believe at the PAMEX network that generating more value, more partnerships is what's going to allow us in this age of volatility to continue strengthening our job with them, to continue having more food, more resources for our cause.
I really liked how the previous panel talked about this age of like a shared supply chain. I really liked that thought, and that's what you were mentioning there. Let's talk about this startup. Like, what's it like to start up a new food banking enterprise, one? And then tell us a little bit about this GRASP 2030 program.
So maybe I wind back a little bit how I started Food Cycle. So I used to live in Australia for 12 years. I moved there.
The accent there, like it was a little tinge
A
of the
little
accent.
bit, yeah. I studied there, so I spent all my adulthood there, and then I went back to Indonesia in 2017. And then you can really see, like, the rich people are, like, really rich, and then there are people that are literally hungry on the street. And we came across a video from, I would say, the brother food bank from India called No Food Waste, and what they did was collecting surplus food from wedding parties. And if you've been to one of the Indonesian wedding party, they invite like hundreds and thousands of people to like a 5-star hotel like this. And that's how we started, like simply picking up food from wedding parties. So our donors were brides and grooms, bridals that want to donate their excess food at night. And little did we know, we got good exposures, bakeries starting donating us, and we thought we need someone to help us, and we met Jeff in 2019. And I didn't know what I've gotten myself into food banking world. Apparently there's such thing. But being a startup, I think we've grown quite massively during the pandemic. I think it was a right time to grow a food bank. So for us, it's really the homework is to sustain the growth. That's our biggest homework. And we got introduced to WRAP in the UK and the Indonesian IBCSD, Indonesia Business Council for Sustainable Development. So IBCSD and WRAP UK, they created this initiative, the GRASS 2030, basically an initiative to reduce food loss and waste by 2030. And when we joined them, there were only 4 signatories, so we were like founding members, I guess. And our general manager was actually selected to be the chair, and now we have 25 signatories in the movement. And to answer the question why we're...
Who spans those signatories? Like, can you talk a little bit about who those signatories are?
Yeah, so it's actually companies. So companies from, not just food companies, basically any companies that want to commit on committing to reducing food loss and waste by 2030. And by being signatories, willing to, basically for them to commit that, yeah, they want to help. And yeah, so far so good. I mean, we're busy. Like you did ask, like, what is it like to be a startup? It's, yeah, it's busy in short. But we feel it's a smart move to join because as a startup, we have limited resources. By collaborating with them, we can then join arms and, you know, spread the awareness to more companies together rather than Food Cycle doing it ourselves. So, yeah.
Absolutely, that's amazing. Now kind of the opposite, Marco, right? Like you guys have been in existence for a while. You've got a big footprint. You know, talk about your structure and how you work and how you're constantly trying to figure out a greater impact.
Yeah, I mean, we run a decentralized network since 30 years, so we share a birthday there. Our members have different mode of operation. A few other classic food banks we all know, they deliver to charities, and most operate their own food distribution site as well, like food pantries. Some are structured like a discount social supermarket, and many offer services and programs aimed to their specific demographics, like seniors, children, refugees, etc. What they all have in common is the goal of saving food and helping people united under a strong brand with the recognition of well over 95% in Germany and German society. And our, as I said, 964 members, they operate 2,500 food pantries all over Germany. There's far more branches than the largest fast food chain in Germany. So we are present like in basically nearly every village, town or city in Germany. And we cannot expand in breadth, but we certainly can and must focus more on issues surrounding poverty, education and professionalism, as well as advocacy, political lobby work on national and international levels to address the root of poverty in Germany and to facilitate the ideas, to the exchange of ideas and experience. We have the TAFE Academy, and they offer a variety of formats, online and offline. And TAFE Deutschland has launched a social media platform restricted to its own members, so we can really keep the focus on issues important to their work. And in order to increase our network's capacity on food saving and to save food from other parts of the food supply chain, we are developing a platform for our donation from manufacturers to our regional hubs. And a few years ago, we launched an online eco-platform, much like our friends at Food Cloud in Ireland. I can't see them right now, but they're here. That manages, hi there, a platform that manages donations from supermarkets to our local Tafel branches, but also the exchange of goods among the Tafel branches itself. And I mean, volunteerism or volunteering and the complexity of tasks requires of the national associations of us are vastly increasing. The complexity is increasing, the demands are increasing. So we had to increase our level and our support and professionalism. As an umbrella organization, of course, we support our volunteers by providing professional services, expertise, as well as funding and materials for their programs and for their projects. But also like to be a constant consultant to their needs and to what they really need on a local level, because that can differ depending on what region of Germany you live in.
And you're talking about the 960 different operating units. They all have their different needs. They all have different things that they have to deal with, right?
Well, the independent associations at the end, but we are all united under the umbrella organization.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Let's talk about BAMX a little bit. Pacto por la Comida. I mean, we're talking about some of these voluntary agreements and these organizing efforts to get groups sharing and coming together. How important are they, do you think?
Precisamente Pacto por la
Well,
Comida.
precisely. Pacto por la Comida is one of the strategic initiatives. Yesterday, I was able to tell you a little bit about it, the first volunteer agreement that we have in Latin America to reduce food waste and loss. In fact, WWF is one of our allies and partners, very active here in Mexico, because we believe that fighting food waste and loss really involves us all, whether we are working with the food sector or not. So we were able to implement this, and this allows us to affect this reduction in food waste and loss, especially from inside, from within the companies. And one of the positive things is that you increase the volume of food for donation. So we realized that when we implement this method, the partners really pay more attention to it and they focus on other areas of their operation. It allows them to detect where the opportunities are for them to do things. We had one partner that was discarding a lot of small potatoes, for instance, because it didn't meet the standards in order to make French fries or chips, but they were just throwing it away, tons every month. So Pacto por la Comida allowed this company and other companies to identify this as a problem. So nowadays, that is not wasted anymore. You take advantage of it, you use it. And this allows you to collaborate because you have these work groups and you concentrate on different things, both companies, industry, food industry, schools, and the international cooperation. We all work together so that we can analyze the problems together and we really can commit together and we can assume new commitments to reduce food waste and loss. So for us, this is an innovation. It's a different way of introducing ourselves to our allies and partners because we are a network, a food bank network. We have a way of measuring things and reducing food waste and loss. But what I'm saying here is this collaboration today more than ever requires innovation. The world is a different world. So we have to generate value in all these partnerships and we have to think things differently. And this is a method that allows us to do just that. It is value added to the partnerships that we already have. So the aspiration is to continue with this collaboration and to generate impact to improve the problem that we're working on.
And it can feel frustrating to gain this momentum. And at what point did you feel like what was the catalyst? Like, are there things that happened that created this catalyst? Maybe it was getting the big name retailer involved. What in your experience helped to build the momentum, to build it bigger?
Bueno, de entrada el arranque del
Oh, from the beginning, it was complex to start with Pacto because we go back to 2017 with the World Bank in Mexico that were publishing the study on food waste and loss for our country. Then the year after that, 2018, we started with this working groups within different sectors, and that was very, very important because you want to work with members of other members of the ecosystem. And starting with that work, we created a document which establishes like a framework for the national strategy against food loss in Mexico. So we have this document that has been generated by all the different sectors that tells us what are the red alerts, where the food loss and waste originates along the value chain. So as part of the solutions for this problem, we established that voluntary agreements such as Pacto had to be implemented in our country so that we would be able to achieve a different kind of commitment from companies by working together, not thinking of each other as competitors, but collaborators, partners, to see what works so that you can really take advantage of all, any kind of food, yogurt, meat, dairy. So we started working with RAP in 2019. We got the funds for implementation. 2020, we were ready. Of course, we could not launch in 2020, even though we were ready. We had 10 signatories at the time, 10 companies that were committed, Nestle, Kellogg, they were there from the get-go. And 2021, we finally launched formally, and that's where we started using the methodology with internal measurement format for each company. And every company already operates, and they already have sustainability committees internally. They're already measuring their waste levels, and they're committed to reducing these levels. So what has been helpful is to have the testimony of these companies that are from the other side of the world, and they tell us, yes, we did it. We have a voluntary agreement. It works. We've generated this much in savings. We have these new lines of products, new in the supermarket, things that didn't exist before. So this sort of encouraged companies to use the methodology. And nowadays we are, a year and a half in this implementation, and this is what's happening. We see concrete actions being implemented after the measurement, after identifying where the origin points are, after listening from companies in other parts of the world, similar companies that have done a good job, and that's what keeps us motivated. And that includes collaboration, international collaboration, and also we work with other experts in other areas, logistics and chefs and other people. That is part of the voluntary agreement. So everybody does their own contribution from their own area of expertise and allows for this voluntary agreement to generate now the first few tons of production that is not wasted anymore. It's been donated to the food bank network here in Mexico, and it's being distributed.
And I think too, this idea of national strategies, these are becoming more and more important, right? Governments really looking at how they're gonna approach food sovereignty and national strategies around food, and food banking and this type of activity absolutely has to be part of that. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, Astrid, did you want to add anything in terms of your journey with the government and your voluntary agreement and GRASP 2030?
Yeah, so I agree with what Maria Teresa said, that you have to show the example. So for us, as food banking is new, so what we did was we didn't try to overwhelm them with all this food loss and waste and all the high terms. But what we did was we created a seminar and show them what are the practical collaborations that can be done, and show them how creative we can be. And maybe what they've been thinking of, oh, I need to donate food, I have to create new food and donate again. But we're not here to beg for food. We are here as a solution for them to reduce food loss and waste. So put aside the hunger part about what food bank is about, is really to eliminate hunger. But within our journey, it's really to present ourselves as a solution for them. So yeah, what we did was we created a seminar, show them practical examples of how food bank can play a role in reducing food loss and waste, and partner up with them. And one of the examples was actually with the Hotels Association. Very easy is to capture the buffet. That's the easy solution. But then,
if you go into it prepared to capture it, this is a big important part, right? There has to be some organization and some training and staff engagement to do that, and that's important too.
Yeah, I can talk about more a bit later, but with the hotels, what we did was actually, we're doing it right now with our program, Food Cycle Farm, is to recycle their organic food waste. Mm-hmm. So this is probably something totally new. I mean, we don't donate that food waste, those scraps from your plates in the morning, from your breakfast buffet. So what we're doing right now is to recycle them on site on the hotels.
So you're taking responsibility not only just for the donation side, but also
But
the
the
proper
thing is,
management.
what they care about is those food waste, because they have to pay. They have to pay basically to discard food waste, right? And the government actually forcing companies in Indonesia to start managing their own waste, not just organic waste, because our landfills are getting really full in Jakarta. So why we're working on the organic food waste first, because that's the pain point of hotels. But at the same time, we're also coming with a package. Hi, by the way, we can also rescue your buffet.
Yeah.
And there has been concerns about the buffet, why they haven't been donating it, because of food safety reason, which you mentioned. But then by providing them assurance, like we have protocols, SOPs on site, on how we can make sure that the food, the buffet, the ready-to-eat meals are safe for donations, then yeah, we'll get the donations for not just the organic waste, but also the buffets.
Yeah,
if that makes
amazing.
sense.
Amazing. Well, and I think too, like in the future, when we talk about things like carbon credits, I think you're going to have to take into account not only the donation, but if you're going to do this properly, you have to account for the total package, right? Like, how can you get a carbon credit for receiving a donation, but then what
How about
happens
the
with the
waste?
waste if it's
Yes.
going into a landfill?
Yes,
Like, how
yes,
can
yes.
you get a credit for?
Yeah.
Comment there? Thought?
Can I add something?
See?
Precisamente porque hablan de los créditos de carbono.
Precisely because you're talking about carbon credits, I would like to share this experience that our prior presenter mentioned. We are fortunate that we finished with the process since last year at the BAMEX with our teams, with 2 banks from Monterrey and Puebla. They started this process of auditing all parts of the operation and the impacts of our operation. And now we're fortunate enough to be active in the voluntary carbon credits market since January. We're the first organization that does it, focusing on food rescue. It's not an easy path, but right now we're focusing on innovation that takes us there. I mean, the need to evolve in the relationship with our partners, that we have to also generate value for them. And now we have that possibility. Our partners who are donating and who need to decarbonize their operations, their events, they can do it at the same time that they strengthen the food rescue that we have already been doing, which is about 150,000 tons a year. Just want to mention that.
Amazing. Marco, back to you. So the war in Ukraine, it's happening in Europe, and I know that you all have been, you're always focused within Germany, obviously, but can you talk about how having an organization like yours has helped to support other countries that are your neighbors?
I mean, the influx of refugees in Germany in 2015, 2016 was like the real first stress test to the Tafel in a globalized world, to try to learn from that and improve ever since. And while Ukraine is geographically much, much closer, and the conditions for the migration in Europe were made much easier, the impact was still immediate and apparent, not only to us in Germany, but also to our sister organizations, balancing the increasing needs and demands of our food banks. We mobilized our food donors to donate as much food as possible, as far east as possible. We couldn't get through like very much deep into the Ukraine, but far to the border. And during the most recent crisis, we have not stopped our public appeals for solidarity and for support. And we are in a relatively solid position, also thanks to 3 decades of partnerships, and with partners that know us, we know each other, and they know that we are reliable and reputable, which is really like the key currency in long-lasting partnerships. And thus we were able to mobilize material support, goods, food, money, transport, to our friends, to Ukraine, neighboring countries, and most recently to Turkey. And it is important to our board and to our association, under the visionary leadership of our chairman, Jochen Brühl, who is also here today. Hi, Jochen. And he's also a member of the FEBA board, and they launched a Europe-wide disaster response plan. And we financially supported campaigns, and we sent food donations abroad. And solidarity is mutually beneficial, and so solidarity is necessary, especially within Europe, but also globally. The causes and the effects, neither of poverty nor of food waste, respect national borders. So food banks are often on the front line, addressing the dramatic results and the dramatic results of climate change. Whether it's fires in Greece or floodings in Netherlands and Belgium or recently in Germany, the ecological and resulting economic hardships are resulting in conflicts and forcing people to migrate all over Europe and all over the world. And it's our hope that our solidarity as part of this global food banking network will lead to an increased sensitivity to these topics among the general population, but also among policymakers in Europe and in Germany. And for us as an association, it's very important to create solid cooperation. That's why for many years we have an officer for national affairs, Ryan Hardy, he was with us here today, to not have cooperations on the paper, but to really put life into cooperations and to really put effort into that and see what outcome we can really have in a globalized world where we take it serious to learn from each other.
Yeah. So I want to ask a panel, each one of you, this same question. So first one to buzz in wins, basically, to who wants to go first. But I think for an audience like this, I think we understand this connection of food to climate. Maybe some of us understand the connection of food to biodiversity. But we still live on a planet where I think it's around 20% of governments globally have food loss and waste part of their nationally determined climate contributions. That number is not good. That's 20%. It needs to be 100. We need to have this realization. Is who's missing in our collaboration pool that we need to bring in to rapidly accelerate the work that we want to do around food banking and food security? Is it government, or is it, if you had to take your pick of who is missing that you want to really bring in, who is that? What type of collaboration is the most valuable? Who is missing from this?
Bueno, creo que
Well,
parte
I
todo de
think that
entender
it all starts from understanding this food ecosystem and how the different actors play a role. This ecosystem is growing. There are new actors coming in all the time. And working with governments, yesterday they were saying don't work with governments. Well, if they don't help them, if they don't help us, at least we tell them not to bother us. I think, unfortunately, that's the reality. But we should not forget. We need to find out where we can activate them, where if we need to go through legislation, because we want to achieve change in the long run. So if we find a way to activate them, that's important. And the community in general. It is a big opportunity in Mexico if they know about the double issues that we face, hunger, food insecurity, but also the issue of food loss and waste. I think it's key to work more on that. There's a lack of culture of donation, there's a lack of knowledge, and we believe that, we all believe that food security and hunger is too far from us. When we have it 10 minutes from your home, it becomes a reality. So it's key to involve the community, the regular citizen. We need to have them become active. The new actors in the system, these apps that are coming now to rescue food and that offer some more commercial schemes. So at least the companies realize a marginal gain. And they can become kind of competitors of food banks. So we need to do this task of analyzing the new actors. With some of them, it would be convenient for us to establish partnerships that will result in donations, in cash, in food, or positioning ourselves. And not with all of them. That's part of the challenge as food bankers. We need to determine which ones we need to partner with. I think we need to appraise each actor and the timing, and maybe we can make them active in the issue. It's not easy, but we're food bankers. We're not here to face easy issues, but we need to solve the issues we have.
Again, collaboration that is needed right now to achieve your mission. Do you have any thoughts, Marco?
Well, we noticed that the amount of food donated by the retail sector is getting less and less, while the competition in that sector is getting higher and higher, especially the commercial competition. So it's our goal to focus more on the steps before the retail sector and the whole food chain, especially starting with manufacturing, but in the future, hopefully, agriculture and hospitality. But that means we have to change our logistics and we have to change our way of getting food donations. And that will go hand in hand with companies, with freight forwarding companies, storage space companies, logistics support companies, to really focus on the whole change. And also food processors along the lines of the examples we've seen here at BAMEX or Food Bank Kenya, what we've heard yesterday. Another area that has been discussed here at FBLI is data. We really have to focus on data and need corporations there. We need to be able to gather and process more data, especially regarding to the impact of our work nationally vis-a-vis our donors, but also internationally, and also as a member of the European Food Banks Federation.
Yeah, and that was mentioned earlier too, this age of digitizing the food system. I could not agree more with that earlier comment. I think it's critical. Astrid?
Yeah, I guess just to summarize what the two panelists have said, it's really a collaboration with everyone because everyone eats food. I mean, a lot of the focus and pressure goes to food companies, manufacturing, agriculture, but at the end of the day, everyone eats food really. So like companies that are non-food sectors should really come on board and contribute as well. Tech companies, even though like, for example, like someone like Google, I mean, they do have lunch, which they can donate, but data and technology, we really need them as well. Other companies, maybe the easiest is to donate fund, which we always welcome. But yeah, it's everyone really. I mean, we never close the door. Like collaboration is not just within the sector of food, but really everyone in the world really should contribute.
Yeah. So speaking of everybody needing food, we stand between you and lunch. But we want to make sure that we open for some questions, so we've got some time. And we have an amazing group of people up here to answer questions. So please take advantage. Any questions from the audience? Everybody's hungry? Let's go. Let's go eat. Nothing?
Literally hungry.
Yeah.
You know, there was a very good comment from the country, Mexico. You spoke about the whole thinking about people's participation on food banking. How is, because my friend from Germany is sitting here, how are you making sure that people's participation in the awareness creation at the home level is happening on food waste? Because that's the critical point which I want to understand from you, that because at the home level, which is at the really grassroots level, because definitely food loss is separate, but food waste is very prominent. What's your thinking about how are you involving the citizens in the whole process of so that no food waste is happening at the home level and at the citizen level, which is the most critical point to save the planet?
The sound isn't the best up here, but I think I understood your question. Well, we work very closely with the government, especially with the Ministry of Agriculture and Nutrition, because it's their job to make sure the citizen of Germany knows that first, they are the food waste reason number one. Over 50% of food waste are happening at home. So they really have to make sure that the citizens are educated where food waste happen, how they can avoid that. And we are trying to find campaigns, public campaigns, to even educate furthermore, even more, especially on the best before date and what you can do to avoid food waste. That's actually a best before date only. You can still eat that. But we really have to work closely together with the ministry, and we want to make sure that this part of education is also part of the school system, because that's where it starts, and even the students need to learn how to avoid food waste and where food waste is created.
Yeah, go ahead, and then to Tara. Go ahead.
No, please.
Yeah, I think to educate the public, it's you have to kind of be creative and not just like from government and schools, but what we've been trying to do is to engage KOLs.
What's that?
Influencers,
Okay.
YouTubers, yeah, and incorporate the topic into like our day-to-day life, like movies, musics, and I think that's important to bring it up. That's creative thinking outside the box, because if we say, oh, hunger and food loss and waste, that's really, leave it to the experts, but I guess to communicate and educate public in general, we have to talk at that level. I mean,
To some degree, I think you have to try to make things, like you said, creative, but also funny. I mean, there's an absurdity about this issue that we work on. And if you some of the most influential videos I've seen online are like people popping out of trash cans and being funny, but you have a seriousness with the message too. I mean, I totally agree. Amazing.
I totally love that. That's a very creative way of thinking, and I think especially the younger generation we can reach with these people. I think and that's the basic of social work. You have to go where the people are. You cannot wait for the people to come to you. So you have to find creative ways for all age groups to address your points. That's very nice.
Tara, did you have any other comments?
Sí, compartirles. Tenemos
Yeah, sure.
como banqueros y
The-
alimentos una
as food
población.
bankers, we do have a very, very close nearby population, people that we can reach all the time to make them more aware. The work team of donor companies, whether they're small, medium-sized, or big, that is a big chunk of the public that we work with. The door is open, and part of the partnership allows us to talk to them all the time and to create awareness among this public that is already there. They're already close to us, and that is very valuable to us. First of all, we see that as an opportunity. Everybody that works for those companies that are our partners. It's not simple, it's not easy to do, but if you take advantage of those partners that you already have, the ones that you're working with, then that can open up your relationship to media. Then you have the Food Day, food awareness of Food Loss, Food Waste Day. So those partners, can wear the flag with us, and they can promote the events and the activities, and maybe they can change the discussion, the conversation. For us, what we do at home, as you mentioned, the percentage of products that you waste at home in high-income countries is very, very different. It's much higher than the 25% of food that you waste in homes here in Mexico. There's a big difference there, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Always pay attention to what you're doing. Always work on the volunteer part. Always work with the pacts and the partnerships that you already have.
That unless there's a burning question, yep, back there.
Yes, thank you. My name is David from Regina. Found your commentary fascinating. I do think there's an interesting enterprise organizational risk relying on food waste, even though retailers are generous, given there's a profit motive always to reduce food waste. I guess my question is, we come from Canada where we have a whole season, arguably 6-7 months of the year, when we don't grow a lot of things like fresh produce. So when we walk around, our CEO and I, in our food bank, we see bananas and blueberries from Guatemala and lettuce from Arizona and, really food from, frankly, all around the world. But when we think about climate change, I'm curious, there's whole segments of the economy, manufacturers that are onshoring because of geopolitical risk, right? Whether you're in the energy sector or the automotive sector. I guess I'm curious, as it relates to collaborating, if any of you have any thoughts around, in the age of climate change, it will become more expensive and challenging for our retail partners, thereby us, to access many food items that are important. For instance, we come from one of the 3 largest growing regions in the world for cereal crops and pulses, right? I suspect many people around here rely on our wheat. We, in turn, rely on your fresh produce. And that's a big risk for us in that we don't grow it. And I'm wondering if any of you are exploring collaborative models around this onshoring concept to make sure that you always have those critical staples for your clients in your network.
I have one comment, if I could take my moderator hat off for 1 second. I think there's always going to be an emphasis for countries and regions to want to look to be food sovereign, to look locally, to look regionally. But I think what your comment exposes, and it's going to be a reality in the wake of climate change, is that global trade is going to be an absolute necessity for us. We can't just say global trade is not going to have to be, we're going to have global trade. And I think with that global trade, you're going to have to see a higher level of transparency, a higher level of information flow, and a sharing of supply chains so that you understand inventory levels across the world. And that's kind of a scary proposition, because with understanding inventory and global food supplies, you have that issue of price and who makes margin on that. And with that, when you lose that control to have that transparency around price, it can be scary for a lot of companies within the food system. But we have to have a flexible food system that can change and adapt in the wake of climate change, and it's going to rely heavily on global trade for not only commodities, but for fresh fruits and vegetables, for specialty crops.
Agregar, porque ya estamos sobre tiempo, hay un foco rojo ahí. Estamos trabajando.
We are working on a trans-border partnership with the Arizona food banks and now with the Texas food banks that will come on board. We have to get together, talking about partnerships with each other. Bank to bank, there's a huge opportunity to collaborate, to work with each other in different ways, more innovative ways, to rescue more food from the fields. We are working on this because we understand there's a need, on the U.S. side from the food banks, and we want to, they can come to Mexico, they can purchase food here from the fields and take it over there. So how can we generate value and more products for our own bank? So we're exploring the connections, we're exploring that project. In fact, we started with the project already. What we want to do is make it grow in an organized fashion. In the case of our country, we have more opportunity to rescue food from the fields in Mexico. And we're also making sure that it can cross the border to the U.S. side and that it can do so efficiently. Perhaps not so related to what you were proposing, but we want to share this with you. We must explore how to go across the borders and how we can do things better that way, how we can use food better that way.
Well said. Any other comments? Okay, please join me in one more round of applause for our wonderful panel today. Thank you very much. And with that, I don't think there's any introductions. We're going to lunch, correct? We're back at 1:45 here, so please enjoy lunch, and we'll see you back here at 1:45. Thank you.
Hola. ¿Me-
Please go ahead, invite everybody to take a seat. We hope you enjoy this delicious lunch, and we welcome you to session number 3, the experiences of food banks. We are going to talk about social disturbances, so civil unrest. I'm Paula Moreno. I'm the Associate Director of Programs for Latin America. And today it is my pleasure to introduce this session. This is going to be done by food banks from Ecuador and Peru. The food is a key element in any culture. And when there is a shortage of food or when there's no food, you can have civil unrest. The periods when you have high prices of food, they're normally associated with higher violence, political agitation, and social unrest. The risk of social and civil unrest has gone up this year in over half the countries of the world. Not just in countries in Latin America, but also the rest of the world. And we also want to inform you that due to inflation, war, and food shortages, we have seen an ever-increasing civil unrest situation in more than half of the countries in the world. That's why we want to invite these 3 food banks to share with us how their experience has been and how they have faced this experience. So we want to welcome the food bank team from Ecuador. We have the directors of both food banks. And we will get started with José Luis Guevara, who is the director of the Quito Food Bank, Banco de Alimentos de Quito. Welcome. Microphone. No. Hi. There you go. Perfect. Now you can hear me. Perfect. You don't know how exciting it is for us. The food bank in Quito and the Ecuador food banks, how excited we are to be here, how moved we are. We are so moved. Just to give you an introduction, let you know about the food bank and our context and why we're so moved. This is our 3rd FBLI. However, in 2018, when we went to our first FBLI, I felt like we met monsters in food banking there. The Banco de Alimentos Quito, during our first FBLI, we were distributing 10 tons per month. And when they would ask, other food banks would ask, how many tons do you distribute as a food bank? I wanted to say, well, let's ask in kilograms, not tons, because after listening to the astronomical numbers that we heard, we realized that we were really not achieving much at the time. However, it's been beautiful to build this along with GFN, and it's great to see this opening and this willingness to share information with us and to increase our information. And it's been a beautiful experience. And we went from 10 tons per month to distribute 10 tons per day average in this last few years. So it has been a process of growth. Thank you. It has been a process of growth. We still have a long way to go, and that is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to learn from all of you, the big maestros of other food banks. And we are so moved. We're so excited to be able to talk to you. First of all, we wanted to start by thanking you for everything that you have allowed us to do. And this has been achieved by having a wonderful team. It's my honor to represent them here today. Perhaps they're watching this presentation from Quito. We send them our greetings from here. I wanted to give you a little bit of context so that you see that our level of growth has been very, very fast in the last few years. We went from serving 7 to more than 100 organizations every month. So we have been really busy and trying to learn how to do this. We haven't really had time to really focus on plans and how to provide these services. For instance, during natural disasters or civil unrest. Now, thanks to Abaco, because they just share their plan with us, then we're going to be able to take a huge step forward and we're going to be better prepared. But, however, in Ecuador, we have had social unrest, huge events of social unrest in 2019, for instance, in 2022. That made it necessary for food banks to respond to that, in a very solid way to the needs of our population. So this social unrest was very important in 2019. The indigenous population went to the capital city, not just by closing roads, they also would fight the people that were not respectful of their protests. So if somebody wanted to walk or be there, they would stop them. They would do something to their cars. They would stop them. There was a huge paralysis in the city. We see the state controller's office building. That was an arsonist set fire to it. There were several dead during these protests and these confrontations with the police. And of course, we had to respond. We had perhaps not with a plan, but from the bottom of our heart, we wanted to respond. So we activated certain points, strategic points where we could gather. We have certain partnerships with universities. We have the center, north and south of the city. We started working there. We started communicating objectively what we do. Not on the side of the protesters, not on the other side. We try to be very objective just to guarantee that they would allow us to go through as a humanitarian effort. Somebody who wants to be there to deliver food to the social organizations wanted to both deliver and rescue food. So we would go by with the white flags in our vans to be able to go across. We had to take food boxes, kits, to deliver to the indigenous population that were there. And we wanted for them to let us through, both with the food that we had rescued and with the food that we had to distribute. So that is from the operation standpoint. From the internal organization, we mapped all the different organizations. We had to prepare schedules. There were some organizations that couldn't come to us anymore. They couldn't come and see us as often. And because of the distances, we had to have like a roadmap. And we had to have meetings so that we would have other organizations pick up the food and deliver it to other organizations that were nearby. And also, we had other organizations help us rescue food, the organizations that were near our donors. With this, and this I tell you again, this came from the bottom of our hearts, and this is we were able to distribute 197,760 kilograms to 81 social organizations, 96,000 people were served, and 576,000 meals distributed. So we started a campaign that helped us collect, thanks to the support of GFN, $38,000 in grants for social organizations that were distributed by food purchases and also distributed at these collection centers. We prepared kits, like there were hot meals and hygiene products. And all of this as part of the Sierra region in Ecuador. On the coast side, we also activated the work that was done at the Guayaquil Food Bank. And just to let you know a little bit of the work that the food bank in Guayaquil did, it was incredible work. And we have Federico, he's going to talk to you. He's the executive director of the Guayaquil Bank, and he's going to tell us about the incredible work that they did at their bank and in the coastal area in our country.
Well, first of all, good afternoon. Thank you again, Teresa and your team, for hosting us here. To me personally, it's my third FBLI. The bank is 12 years old. Diaconia, as you can see, has created programs that you know well already, the rescue of produce, the hot meals program, and we are discussing now more with Mexico on how to improve it. We have a program that we're very proud of, which is the Kellogg's Breakfast for Better Days. We've been able to promote new activities that then were shared by other food banks. We also have the Kilograms of Love. That's a program specifically to take food to the soup kitchens we have. As I said, the bank is 13 years old. I've been the director for 12 years. This is my third FBLI, and I'm very proud to be here. Now, what do we have in Ecuador? All of these programs, unfortunately, since they are located in a region of conflict, where there's social conflict, and we were discussing this with other people in Latin America, and we've also had climate events. As a food bank, on the first year, we collected 90 tons first year. 2020, we collected 6,500 tons during the pandemic. We worked 24/7 for many days, and we became the first logistic social operator in the country. We were able to work, even though we were present only one province, we were able to reach 11 provinces. We worked with local governments, national government, multinational companies. We worked with foreign funds that trusted us and our activities. As Jose Luis was saying, we had last year, specifically, social unrest. Guayaquil, for those who don't know, it could be called the economic capital of Ecuador. So we had a lot of problem with the closing of roads. Our issue became supply, getting the supplies. We couldn't get, for example, poultry and eggs. For example, before all this, an egg would cost 5 cents in the market. During the 18 days, the beginning of the pandemic, price rose to 50 cents. So it was a sudden change. We still had the responsibility of feeding the population, and we did it. How? Well, precisely with the support of our partners. This is an image from supermarkets in Guayaquil. Trucks couldn't reach the supermarkets, even when people were able to purchase food, and they weren't able to receive donations. So we looked to our partners, the companies that supplied us with the products that our soup kitchens needed. That's what allowed us to continue serving social institutions. Now, we tried to distribute to the 173 entities that the bank works with formally. 16 areas benefited directly. Why? Because those were the areas where we had the soup kitchens that we needed to continue working. We raised about $40,000 so that we wouldn't have to charge a recovery fee. And we were able to help other food banks. We're proud of having played a part in the growth of the banks in Quito, Guanabara, and Cuenca. We supported them with product and with transportation. What did we deliver? Well, always food, of course, but also cleaning and hygiene products, sanitary products. We were able to have 12 warehouses. And like Jose Luis said, we tried to become partners with them, not to, avoid conflict, try to prevent more social issues, social unrest. We worked with the public officials, and we also worked with the people who are protesting. In Guayaquil, we have services that work with the indigenous population, and we had to support them too. So we were able to provide them with hot meals and food. And our president is the president of the Episcopal Conference in Ecuador. And he was the main intermediary who broke the peace to stop the social unrest. And so the church can be of help. They help to have people listen to us. The problem with the social issues like that is that we don't hear each other. We always put our interests first. But we participated in some dialogues, and it's a point of pride for us to have as our president, Monsignor Cabrera. And I want to thank Ana Catalina also, because in spite of all the issues we've had with social unrest, with COVID and the earthquake we had a few days ago, I always remember Ana Catalina's word and her team's. First question is, how are you doing? How's your team doing? That's the first thing. Then we ask about the kilograms, because as Jose Luis was saying, the team, the staff is what's important at the banks. And again, Tere, thank you very much for hosting us, for welcoming us to Mexico. It's been an experience that we hope we would have back in 2020. I remember writing to Ana Catalina, asking please to confirm if we were going to have the FBLI or not. We ended up not having it. And I think every year I kept insisting, because we wanted to have this experience. Anthony, all the team at GFN, the ones who came to certify the bank the first time, we know how much we appreciate your support. And to conclude, I want to ask you to join me in thanking not only the staff who works at the Diaconia Food Bank, working 24/7, but all the staff here. You have operational staff, we have administrative personnel who is right now at your banks doing what we're discussing here. So all of them deserve a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jose Luis from the Food Bank in Quito, Federico from the Diaconia Food Bank. Thank you for your great presentations. And we invite Daniela Osores, Executive Director of the Food Bank in Peru, to give us her presentation. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Daniela Osores. I'm here representing a team of 40 people who make their best effort every day to go the extra mile in Peru. I want to thank you first for this space. I want to thank mainly GFN. And without your support, the bank wouldn't be where it is now. I would have never imagining standing here today. I want to thank you, and I want to make a brief introduction. I'm going to tell you about my country first, and it's not something that I'm proud of, but unfortunately these are things that are happening in my country, have been happening for over a decade. Peru has a large percentage of its population that's neglected, and what I'm going to show you now is a snapshot of what's going on. However, I want to tell you that Peru is much larger than its problems. There's a food bank, there's a lot of people working every day for things to improve. So what I'd like to tell you now is, first of all, I want to give you a little bit of the context about the political crisis that our country is undergoing. In the last 7 years, Peru has had 6 presidents. In fact, 7. One of them. One of them is not even counted because he lasted 5 minutes. But 6 presidents. 3 of them were impeached by Congress for corruption. In fact, the last president, Pedro Castillo, is today in jail. Is in prison because of an attempted coup that he conducted on December the 7th. So it failed and he is now in prison. Now, since that time, many voices rose up in protest with a lot of violence too. Peru, as I said, has gone through a lot of failures. If we add to that the pandemic, which was not just COVID, it was a pandemic of hunger. Peruvians, 80% of Peruvians went into a situation of food insecurity, 80%, meaning that, 80% of the population did not have easy access to food. Half of that, 40%, suffered severe food insecurity, which means that they can go for days without getting any food. That not only happens in the areas that are farthest from Lima, from the capital. That happens in Lima. You can drive around in a car for hours, and you'll find organizations that don't have running water, don't have electricity. And that's the reason why many people have been protesting in my country. However, and this is the part that I'm proud of, there's a food bank, and there's a lot of people, regular citizens, who are working to get ahead and to help that forgotten population, that population that has no access to food and basic necessities. We started in 2014 rescuing 98 tons. Up to 2017, it was about 2,000, 3,000 tons. In 2020, we started rescuing up to 9,000 tons. On average, we're at 10,000 tons. So we have tripled the number of donations. And again, I want to reiterate my thanks to GFN. Now, the yellow bars represent the number of tons, the orange ones, the number of beneficiaries. So we started with 98 tons, helping 66,000 people. Last year, we reached almost 10,500 tons, and we helped 650,000 people. Not only people around Lima, we've been able to decentralize this assistance. And as an aside, I want to say that the food bank is the only one in Lima, the only one that's certified in our country. We know that we cannot work alone. And I want to tell you also how we work within the food bank. Now, before 2018, we were rescuing mainly from supermarkets. Now it's about 150 supermarkets that we work with them. We work regularly. Social organizations go at a specific time, and then they follow a specific route to distribute food. We were also receiving food from industry, food that was being produced and not commercialized. In 4 years ago at FBLI, we received a great prize, a great award. That was a dream that we didn't imagine was possible. Not only did we receive a grant to make our dream a reality, but last year we went through the audit satisfactorily at the warehouse in the central market. Now, but again, politics played against us. There was a change in government, and about a month ago, we were kicked out of the wholesale market. That left about 60,000 people without access to fresh produce. We were rescuing from 5 to 8 tons a day from the wholesale market. Now, with this implementation of quality and safety, we're talking about products in perfect shape, products that were totally aligned with the needs of organizations. It was not that we were taking donations, half of them were not used. These were products that were really worthwhile, products that now are being distributed amongst other organizations, and we hope from the bottom of our heart that it can come back. And of course, as Food Bank, we're always ready to establish partnerships to have synergies, because we need to help, we need to bring food to the populations in need. In 2018, when we started working with the wholesale market, and that represented last year 20% of our donations. Right now, we're looking for alternatives to recover food, fruits and vegetables from other supply markets. Now, for 10 years now, we've been able to access donations from the agricultural fields. It's a challenge because in Peru it's difficult to be able to reach and collect food in a timely manner. But thanks to different partnerships, we've been able to achieve that. What have we done during this time? Well, we've had many soup kitchens. Soup kitchens are created to take care of the most vulnerable, the most needy population. We had never worked before with soup kitchens. We've always focused on shelters, other public diners, and working with those soup kitchens was a little bit different. we didn't want to do it without being sure that we could do it well. So this implied for us a very important, very significant field work, not only to identify the organizations, but also to validate, see that they were always organizations that could cook, they could take care and serve the population. Now, by learning all of that, we now have about 500 soup kitchens through intermediary organizations, others that we take care of directly, and other projects with a limited time span. There are three important pillars that we require. We place a lot of value on them. It's not only to have access to food through recovery, rescue, or food that can be purchased, but also we want them to have an infrastructure, to have all the kitchen, the supplies, the ladles and spoons and everything. But there's something that's more important than that, and that's knowledge. A soup kitchen that knows how to work, how to save, how to manage, how to become sustainable. That's the key, because we do not want to be just an assistant organization. We want them to get ahead, to be able to get up on their own, so that they can self-sustain, and that's key. Knowledge is something that nobody can take away from them. But again, as I mentioned in the beginning, on December the 7th, we had a number of protests and road closures and very violent strikes. Over 50 people were killed. All the roads were blocked and paralyzed. In January, Lima was, in a way, overtaken. A lot of people came to protest. And the problem is not, that they raised their voice because of the poverty they face. We very clearly understand that these are people that are being neglected. But there are other reasons. There are other forces that unfortunately use this population to take care of their own interests. And these protests have calmed down a little bit, but have lasted already 2 months. And they have cost the lives of police, members of the police, other civilians. But also, this is very sad news. There's a baby that died because of the road that was being blocked, and the ambulance wasn't able to get through. So there was a lot of people that was affected. All that collateral damage that we cannot recover from that. Physical damage, all that can be recovered, infrastructure damage. But these deaths, it show for how many years Peru has been suffering. But again, there's a number of people, there's organizations like the Food Bank that have been working to try to achieve peace. If this were not enough, after these protests that now are starting to die down a little bit, we have the issue of climate change. We started with Arequipa in the southern part of the country. You can see this image. Many of the areas affected by the rains ended up like this. Roads were destroyed, streets were destroyed. So together with the protest, the roads that are blocked, this type of situations, climate change, affect the population even more. As a bank, what we did immediately was we organized and we implemented our emergency protocols. That emergency protocol is divided basically in 3 parts. First of all, identify the population, its needs, where they're located, what they need, what type of products, because clearly in areas like this one, and I'm going to show you areas where they had, the floods, people were walking waist deep in water. So it didn't make sense to send products that they couldn't cook. So we have to identify the need. And so by identifying the organizations in the area, then trying to determine the logistics, how would we reach those areas? There's many areas where we've had to carry supplies this way by climbing on foot because cars couldn't reach. And this is what happened now in February. What's happening right now? Well, we had Cyclone Yaku affecting not only the south that was already affected in the Arequipa area, but also the northern part. So we have Arequipa, we have the northern of the country affected by Cyclone Yaku, and what you can see here now is from last week. Now the food bank team is working 24/7 to try to reach those populations. As I was mentioning, there are three general actions that we have to carry out. Identify the beneficiaries, coordinate with logistic partners, and raise money and collect donations. Whatever it is, from the big donors, from partners, from central markets, warehouse, etc. There's no competition in that. It's not a competition. We have to do it. We have to relieve hunger. This is in the northern part of the country. We have made a big effort to deliver kits with food and hygiene products. And something that the bank has never done in its history was preparing food. But we started doing it because there was a reason. They couldn't cook food or prepare food, so we had to bring prepared meals that they could consume at that time. And all of this is happening right now. My country is flooding. We have a terrible political crisis, a social crisis. However, the food bank will not stop, not even for a second. They will stop working for the good of the population and to continue rescuing food. It's something really important. I mean, during the pandemic, when we didn't have access to food, many organizations, we were saying, how difficult is it to believe that in a country like ours, there's no food. Of course, there is food. I would even say there is a surplus, but the issue is the correct distribution. When we were talking about public policies yesterday, I mentioned that if we managed correctly the food that could be rescued, we could be relieving the hunger of 70% of the Peruvian population that's suffering from hunger. I'm going to show you a couple of videos about that.
Las inundaciones en Perú dejan imágenes como estas. Más de 60 personas han perdido la vida desde el comienzo del periodo de lluvias el pasado mes.
Since the beginning of the rains last month. It's difficult to see, difficult to watch, but there's nothing that motivates us more. And on behalf of the food bank, nothing's going to stop us, so we can continue working, we can continue adding partnerships, we can promote public policies so that they join us in this fight. Again, I thank GFN. Nothing would have been possible without this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Daniela, for this presentation. This is really moving and inspiration. Thank you, Federico. Thank you, Jose Luis. Really, they show us that despite the circumstances, food banks are always there. They're available. They're ready to serve under any circumstances. So we send a greeting to the rest of the work team because of their commitment and the work that they're doing. And I'm going to call Anthony now, who's going to share with you the activities that we're going to be doing next.
Okay, good afternoon. So in just a few minutes, going to have a slight change of scene, and you'll get an opportunity for more discussion and conversation with your food bank peers and colleagues in other countries. But just before I explain what's going to happen with the breakout groups,